Hey, welcome to Viking Preparedness. I am Pastor Joe Fox. Summer has come to this part of the Ozarks. It is hot, it is humid, but the work still must continue. We have our good friend and brother Tim here from Seattle area, and right now he's working on something that doesn't require my assistance. He's wiring some boxes and things, and we'll probably talk about that later once they get done. And then we're probably going to do a video later this week on crews, groups, participating, that kind of thing. He's the, he probably would argue with my characterization of the word leader, but he's the head honcho of the Puget Sound, North Puget Sound group. And he has some ideas, and we work a little bit, talk a little bit, work a little bit, talk a little bit. We've had some pretty interesting conversations in the last couple days, and one of the ones was pods. And so I have a concept, and his is a little bit different, but they're similar. And in an intentional community, let's say, whether that is your bug out location where people have moved to, or the intentional community you're living on now, or whatever, there's this thing called span of control, and humans are capable of directly supervising like 3 to 5 people. That's about it. You get beyond that and things start slipping, right? And so that then limits the size of groups. And then there's Dunbar's number, which I've talked about before, 150 people you can form a meaningful relationship with, blah, 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 blah. So if you're going to set up a community that's going to grow and be big, you probably don't want to end up looking like Detroit or Chicago or Kansas City or whatever, where it's just, even says in the Bible, you shall not build house upon house. And so the concept is, and it's not original to me or Tim, you build pods, you build groups of houses. So let's say there's, 4 to 10 households here. And then we don't build the next houses here, we build them over here, 4 to 10 houses. And then over here. And then how do you, assuming this is all one community, one tribe, one whatever, how do you then govern that? Because government exists. Whenever you have groups of people together, there is some form of government. Decisions are taken. How are they arrived at? That's government, right? How are decisions enforced or not? That's government. Anarchy, chaos, this is not the way of Yah's people. And so there's different ways. You could have each pod be responsible for themselves to a certain degree. An example, and I may have gotten this idea from that book that I talk about a lot. It's a good book called Creating a Life Together by Christensen. It's a thing on intentional communities. It's pretty good. But maybe this one pod wants to paint all their buildings earth tones, green, gray, brown, whatever. And this other pod, they move in, they start their own pod, and they're like, you know what, we'd kind of like to do the Caribbean thing, the sky blue, the lime green, the yellow, the orange. Why not let them decide that for themselves? But then if that pod says, you know what, we want to cut down 80 acres of trees, well, that might affect other people too, so then maybe that has to be a bigger community decision. Does that start making sense? And then how do you do that? Every pod could elect a representative, appoint a representative to the higher committee, whatever. A lot of this is putting the cart before the horse for those of us who don't have that many people to worry about. Most of y'all don't even have a working mag, but it's something to keep in the back of your mind. And again, until you need to cross that bridge, there's no need to spend a whole lot of brain power on it, except to familiarize yourself with the concepts, because a working mag will grow in bad times. You will get more people attracted to you. And so you should kind of have a plan for how you're going to deal with that. As far as your mag goes, you're going to have to decide how decisions are made. If you have one blowhard, old pastor with a white beard who tells everybody what they can and can't do all the time, that's probably not going to work real well. Unless it's all a bunch of, beta males and people who just like being told what to do. People have to have input, especially if you surround yourself with smart people. capable people. You know, not just the dregs who will just do what you tell them to do for 3 meals a day or whatever. I come from a background of special forces, which is mostly, not exclusively, but mostly extreme type A personalities, meat eaters, wolves, tame wolves. They're sheepdogs. No, they're more like tame wolves. And you know, those are hard people to lead, because they're all very competent. They're all very smart at what they're smart at. And it's why selection for things like special forces is so hard. You have to select people who are very capable all by themselves to get things done, and who at the same time work well in groups. That's tough to do. Again, because of my background, you know, I kind of see things through those visions, those lenses. You know, it's kind of like, yeah, I kind of like the idea of the A team or the B team or the OGA or, you know, whatever. You don't have to go there. Look at communities. Look at old medieval communities. Look at feudal communities. I think feudalism's coming back. And you know, a lot of people have a lot of pride right now, and they have the luxury of being able to say, I ain't doing that. You will if you need food. It's amazing what people will do for food, which is why I tell you all the time, have food, so you're not put in that position of having to make a decision. But feudalism is coming back, and feudalism isn't bad. It can be bad, you know. What's it called when you have a king? That's not necessarily feudalism. But kings, you know, Israel, the people Israel, not the nation state, they decided they wanted a king. That didn't make the father very happy. He's like, fine, you want a king, get a king. And then they had a good king and a bad king, and a good king and a bad king, and a good king and a bad king. Good kings are great. That's a fine way to live if you have a good king. If you have a bad king with all that power, that's a bad thing. And then so what people kind of intellectually realize is, yeah, we can't have a king with all that power. We got to limit his power. And so then that's when bureaucracy and all this other stuff comes in, which I don't think is necessarily a natural way of government. To have a democracy, whether it's a, you know, representative democracy, you know, a republic, you know, where people have a say, a big say in how they're governed and how things go in their polity. You have to have smart people. You have to have people who think on a slightly higher level than me want. And who was it? I think it was some famous French dude said, well, you got a democracy if you can keep it. And somebody said something like, you know, a democracy will last only until the pigs decide that they can vote themselves more to eat. And that doesn't work. People are not selfless anymore, not by and large. People don't think, by and large. I think a lot of the Vikings do. We're counter to that, but I'm talking them out there. People don't think about other people. They just think about themselves. They're selfish. They're stubborn. They're pig-headed. And a lot of them are stupid. I mean, just ignorant and willfully stupid. And in that situation, democracy doesn't work. Democracy will never work in Afghanistan. It won't work in Lesotho. It just won't. And I fear that it's getting to the point where in the good old US of A, democracy's on its last legs. We're really only working on a semblance of democracy right now. The vision, the appearance of democracy. I think it's a great system when it works. Do not misunderstand me. But I think when the event happens, when the balloon goes up, when this whole thing comes crashing down, you're going to see feudalism. You're going to see warlords and barons and fiefdoms and kings and classes, and you're going to have whole groups of people, the serfs, who have nothing but their air that they breathe and the muscles that they have, and they're either going to do what the people who control other things say, or they're going to die. And it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get shot. It just means we're not going to feed you. Go away. Oh, you want to eat? Dig this ditch. things have been that way in humanity for most of humanity. We had a chance to do it this way, and we've kind of messed it up. So that's why, one of the reasons why I tell y'all, store food so you're not at the whim and the mercy of somebody else. Store more food so that you can bring people to you, and then y'all can start your own thing. But if you're not doing that stuff now, you are smoking dope if you think you're going to do it after an event. Just not going to happen. It's like those fat middle-aged authors, dudes, they're like, well, I'm going to write my character. He's going to have a whole army and all these 19-year-old lover girls. Can't even talk like that. It's fantasy, dude. No, you're going to have some 35-year-old warrior give you a shovel and say, go dig, old man, if you want to eat. If you don't have something else set up, guys need to get busy. You need to take this stuff seriously. Get your tribes going. Start with your mag. Start with your little circle. If you don't know how to get your spouse on board and you haven't read my book, shame on you. I have a whole chapter on that. You got to start there. Man, if you can't convince your family to get on board, how do you think you're going to lead anybody else? Ooh. I didn't mean this to be a scolding video. I'm just kind of procrastinating going out there in the sun and mowing some more, but that's what I got to do. And oh yeah, here at Shofar Mountain, we do it right. People have told me in the past, why don't you get a riding lawnmower? Because I have too many rocks. People say, hey, we want to come out and help mow, the Shofarians. I'm like, okay, bring your own lawnmower, because you're not going to break mine on a rock. Bring yours. You'll be more careful with it. Hey, start thinking about how you're going to get bigger. You should always plan for more. You have what you have now, you should plan the next 3 levels up. How's that going to look? How's that going to work? How are you going to fit into it? And what can you do now to influence how things work then? All right, things to think about. I appreciate y'all. I really do. I really appreciate those of you who expressed care, concern, whatever, for Sister Kate. I have her sitting on her hiney with a cold beverage and a fan blowing on her. I told her, stay off your feet today. You're not doing anything. She's like, well, I want it. Nope. Sit down, be chilly. Got to take care of her. I appreciate y'all who express concern. I really do. All right. I'll see you out there.